Good afternoon, my beautiful girlies. It's Grace, and let's hop right in to this makeup get ready with me. So, for today's topic of discussion, what would be the most surprising scientific discovery imaginable? So, I think that this topic is super interesting to think about since usually with scientific discoveries and all that fun stuff, we don't really think about how many discoveries are made, whether every single minute or every single second. I just think that there are so many discoveries that we just don't talk about since there's just so many news. And I just think that this is such an interesting topic to talk about, in my personal opinion. I don't know, that's just me. I think that this topic is super duper interesting to talk about, to say the least. And I just think that whether if the scientific discoveries were old or new, I feel like we should be more inclined to know about the discoveries that are made about the world that we live in. So here I have my 3 personal surprising scientific discoveries that every person would be very surprised to hear about or even imagine. So the first surprising scientific discovery imaginable that people just wouldn't believe would have to be that the city of Atlantis is real. So I, not too long ago, actually made a video about how, in one of my, I think conspiracy posts about how I believe that the city of Atlantis is actually a real thing. And I genuinely do believe it, since it's the simple fact, scientific fact, actually, that 95% of our oceans is actually undiscovered, and we actually only discovered 5% of our ocean, which I think is just such an insane fact to think about. The reason why I believe the city of Atlantis is real is from SpongeBob, and that's one of my most favorite cartoons ever. And I believe they did an episode where I think the whole crew was traveling to another part of the ocean, probably a deeper part of the ocean, since they live in the Bikini Bottom, and they just discovered this magical big castle, underwater castle. And it was just basically the city of Atlantis and each of the gang's dream, like SpongeBob, Patrick, Mr. Krabs. I think in that episode, it was I believe Mr. Krabs had a, there was a money room for him. There was basically rooms for everyone, the rooms of their dreams, of their biggest, wildest dreams. And I don't know, maybe that's why I believe the city of Atlantis is real, because it's it does make sense. The fact that majority of our ocean is undiscovered and we have no idea what creatures or what life exists underwater is just so terrifying to me. And that's why I believe that the ocean literally is space. Because, the ocean is space, but on Earth, because we literally have no idea what is in our waters whatsoever. And we live among these unknown creatures. So I don't know, I just think that's just super duper interesting to me. I also just think at the exact same time, not only can, creatures that we don't know about exist, but I also believe that extinct creatures also exist as well. I don't know if there's actual scientific facts on this part, but to be fair, why not? Why, can't there be extinct creatures from millions and millions and millions of years ago that can exist in our world today? I just think that it's not the worst thing to believe, in all honesty. I think that all the extinct creatures probably went to the city of Atlantis or exist in the city of Atlantis. There's probably some human, like half human, half animal life that exists down there that we just have, no idea about. And, we're just sitting here like, oh, we're probably the only actual human beings on Earth, when it's like, no, I don't think so. I think that there's some kind of, half kind of human that exists down there as well that we just have no idea about and we'll probably never know about. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that this stuff is so interesting because it's just like, we really don't know the kind of creatures that we are living with, like, whatsoever. And to me, that's just so fascinating. And with that topic of why I believe, we have extinct animals down there, is because, I know that most extinct animals that existed millions of years ago obviously are not here anymore. But who's to say that those extinct sea creatures went extinct as well? Who said that? I mean, shoot, who knows? New conspiracy. We probably have the world's oldest, sea creatures that we have no idea that exist among us, because we like to assume that, oh, what happened back then, it just doesn't exist anymore. And that's just not even the truth, like, whatsoever. That just doesn't, exist at all, but it actually does. Because, in this world that we live in, there are new things that are, constantly being discovered, new things that we didn't even know existed, and, or that it's actually has been existed and we just didn't want to believe it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just very, very interesting to see the changes and, the new things that we are going to discover in the name of, scientific research. But I don't know. Sometimes I just think to myself, there are probably monarchies and all of that fun stuff that exist in, the underworld, the underwater underworld that no one will ever know, like Area 51 and what they're actually using Area 51 for, I know that was a very big trend in the past decade about like, oh, like they're probably storing aliens and stuff like that. And that's also something that I do believe in, because I don't know why the government will not disclose what they're, using down there. I don't know why. I mean, the fact that the government won't disclose it, obviously we're not surprised, because that's how the government operates. But you mean to tell me, like, there is no discovery of aliens whatsoever, like none? I don't know. That is just, very suspicious to me, in my humble opinion. We're gonna go with a black color, because why not? I've used like all bright colors. Ooh, I like that. That's really, really cute. But yeah, you guys, I don't know. The city of Atlantis is just like one of my favorite conspiracies. Alleged conspiracy theories. I don't know. I just think that, why couldn't the city of Atlantis exist? I mean, we already believe that aliens exist, so I don't know. Why not? But yeah, y'all. I believe that the city of Atlantis actually being real would be the most surprising scientific discovery imaginable. The second most surprising scientific discovery imaginable would have to be that there are other beings that live or exist on other planets. This one's a no-brainer. In my last point, I discussed that, not only does the city of Atlantis exist, or that it's real, but also, I sort of mentioned that aliens, also, we also know that aliens also existed as well. So, why don't we believe that other forms of life can exist on other planets since our galaxy is just so freaking big? I don't know. I think it's just very, very interesting to me that we don't tend to think that we are the only beings that exist on this earth. And there's probably most likely like scientific, discoveries that already, exist or that is being worked on that other beings actually do exist. We just don't know because, there are so many planets, there are so many galaxies. So it's like, how can you really keep, track of it at all? I don't know. I just personally think that there are definitely other lives that we don't know about. Heck, probably other creatures besides aliens that we don't even know about. Because, either scientists just don't know that we have those other beings, or, they probably do, but they just don't disclose it to the public for obvious reasons. I don't know. To me, there are definitely other beings besides aliens that, live on other planets, because it just doesn't make sense. If we've already discovered that aliens exist, or that there are other proof of other, life than human, then why not, It's like, you can even argue that back then, even before humans came and before the Pangea happened, the shifting of, the continents and stuff like that, there definitely was an existence of other creatures that weren't human. I mean, we had these extraterrestrial, dinosaurs and T-Rex that, we only hear about in books, and we have like, some skeletons of. So it's like, you kind of think to yourself, well, well, if those things existed, then why can't other beings that live, within our galaxy also exist as well? I don't know. Probably, to me, those beings most likely won't come to Mother Earth. Probably until, maybe the next tens of thousands of years, most likely. And if anything, I don't blame them, because us humans can be very, very, what's the word? Cruel at times. Extra at times, for sure. Most definitely extra, because, people say that the most dangerous animal in the world, or the most dangerous animal of all humanity, is man. So, shoot, maybe the extraterrestrial creatures that do exist, or the other lives that do exist within our galaxy, wanted to come visit Earth, but they couldn't do that because of how humans are crazy, and how, humans' first, instinct is to attack. And it's, not to actually get to know those said extraterrestrials that are, you know, wanting to land their ship or land whatever technology that they use to get to know the beings that live here. I don't know, you just hear like jokes about, you know, you know, the, whatchamacallit? What do you call it? About how aliens, you know, don't even want to come onto, you know, Earth because of how crazy human beings are, and how probably aliens are more civilized than us humans, because at least with aliens, you know, they're not trying to hurt people or stuff like that. Or I don't know if I'm just making that up. I most likely am. And wow, this blush needs to definitely be situated. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I just, you know, I believe that those extraterrestrials probably just don't want to come onto this Earth because they probably heard the stereotypes of us human beings, most likely from aliens, that, oh, you know, humans are so scary, humans really are unhinged, they have, you know, no sense, you know, whatsoever, and they just are that unhinged. So that's probably why they don't even want to come and visit in the first place, you know. Not that I blame them at all, because who can really blame them? I don't know. You know, what are the other creatures that exist besides, you know, human beings? I would really be interested into seeing, you know, what kind of other beings exist outside of our Earth. You know, do you think it's, you know, it's obviously aliens, but how many other extraterrestrials? You know, is there 4? Is there 8? Is there 50 other beings that live with us? You know, people like to say that science fiction, you know, is just science fiction. You know, science fiction is a figment of our imagination. And it's like, okay, well, you can say that science fiction is a figment of our imagination, but then when the disturbing crap happens and we don't know where that even comes from in the first place, that's the first thing that we like to say. Ooh, that was not blended out correctly, like at all. I don't know, there's probably like, you know, so many beings that we don't even know about that human beings will never, you know, find out about until we're all probably dead, or until the next evolution cycle happens. But yeah, y'all, that is the second surprising scientific discovery imaginable that I think that people would just be so freaked out about. The third and the very last surprising scientific discovery that would be very imaginable, or that would be imaginable, would be that the universe is a simulation, or that we live in a simulation. And I don't mean like the common simulation of like, oh, we're living in the Matrix, this, that, and the third that we hear. You know, I mean, that can include that, but when I mean by simulation, I just mean that we, you know, that the Earth exists within a wormhole. And, you know, the most controversial debates that we have on this Earth is if the Earth is flat or if the Earth is round. Obviously, I'm not a flat earther. I do believe that the world is round. You know, you have some people that believe that the world is flat, or that the world exists in like a cylindrical, you know, force. And I don't really know where people get that from, but I don't believe in that at all. I don't really know. I think that, you know, this point that Earth is a simulation, like it's like a black hole, it's like a wormhole, it would just be so interesting yet scary at the same time. Because it's like, what? Like, oh crap. Almost poked my eye out. So it's not like, you know, oh, okay, like we exist, you know, in a world where, you know, evolution and the circle of life happens. Oh, like, no, we don't exist in that world. We just exist in a world where, you know, it's actually a simulation. You know, none of this is real. I don't know. I believe it's one of those questions that I think will make anyone, oh crap, ooh, yep, we messed that up. Holy crap. Okay, I'm just going to do it to the other side. Oh man, oh my goodness, y'all. I don't even want to zoom up. Do y'all see how messy this is? Okay, we're just gonna say that we're going for an emo look. Y'all, I don't even want to. Do y'all see this mess? I don't know. We're gonna pull it off. We're just gonna say, oh yeah, I kind of added a little bit of an artistic flair when it was really just me messing up. So moving on. But yeah, I mean, especially, I don't know, I'm getting this kind of belief from Stranger Things 5, the last season, and that whole theme was basically about how you know, oh, so spoiler alert if you haven't watched Stranger Things 5, coming up ahead. But their whole premise of that season was that basically that Hawkins basically was, you know, living through a loop. They were living through a wormhole, basically. And, you know, everything that they thought about the world, basically was all a lie. And, you know, their world, you know, the Hawkins that they knew basically doesn't exist. It was like all one big imagination. So that's kind of why I thought, you know, this theory of our Earth being flat, our Earth being flat, that our world is, you know, a simulation came from. But yeah, and with everything that's happened in human history, I mean, why not? Why can our world not be a simulation? But yeah, y'all, that is the third and last surprising scientific discovery that would be imaginable. Okay, you guys, so we just got finished with our makeup look. I definitely messed up here. Definitely messed up there. I feel like my lip combo is kind of lacking, but I actually like this dark eyeshadow look. I think it's super duper cute. It's super duper pretty. But yeah, I just hope that y'all enjoyed this topic. It was just super duper interesting just to think about, you know, the most imaginable and most surprising scientific discoveries. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you all enjoyed. I hope that you will have an amazing Monday, an amazing week, and I will see all of y'all's beautiful faces next time. Bye, guys.